Folks, welcome into Drop Zone Hunting here. This is Jeremy. This is episode 8. I'm excited about this one. I got two of my good buddies on the line with me here. I got my son, Chris Beard, a.k.a. Furby, and my good buddy, Tom Griswold, in the house here. And this episode is what I'm calling tech talk, per se. We're going to be talking about things you can do in the off season when it comes to hunting after the season's over and you're looking to keep your skills tuned up. There's some cool things that are out there for guys to do to keep kind of them sharpened skills. And then we're going to kind of just talk about some equipment stuff. So welcome aboard, fellas. Finally glad to get you here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, let's start this off with, Tom, as far as what we're going to go into, you've kind of been doing this a little bit longer. Christopher's just now getting into this. So I definitely wanted to have him on here with us when we did this. But, guys get done with the hunting season and they're looking for things to do as far as, there's the hunting season's over, but they still enjoy shooting and want to keep their skills up when it comes to shooting and stuff. There's a lot of cool things that guys can do. And you've kind of taken this over the past few years and ran with it and kind of gotten pretty serious with it, really. Explain to us a little bit about what you got going on and kind of how it works.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different style of extracurricular archery, whether it be field archery or 3D archery, or it can be fun. I mean, you can take it as serious as you want. And that's what's cool about it. And it's all different ages. It's there's nothing that you have to be skilled in to do it. And that's the cool part. So I actually just started in 3D at my local range here, which is Wolf Run there in Root House. And then I kind of expanded. I got into what's known as ASA, which is Archers Shooters Association out of Georgia. So it's kind of more of a sanctioned style shooting. There is a membership to it. There is a certain set of scoring that when you do shoot the 3D animal, how you score them. But and that's what really hooked me on it was the camaraderie of the people, staying in tune with shooting all the time, and then just the fun of it. And yes, I do travel a lot now and kind of chase the circuit a little bit. But there's a lot of local stuff that people can chase too as well. So yep.
So that one you're talking about, that ASA one that's out of Georgia.
Correct.
Is that one there? Now, is that something that when you say travel, I mean, are you having to go down to the southern parts of the states to do that, or do they have sanctioned events in our area, or kind of how does that play out in that?
Yeah, so there's pro-ams, which you can travel. So in February, I shot in Foley, Alabama, and then it was every month I would travel to different parts. So I shot Foley, I shot in Camp Minden, Louisiana, Fort Benning, Georgia. Actually, at the end of this month, it's London, Kentucky. But that is the pro-am styles. There is ASAs in the state. So there's state qualifiers too, which don't get scared with the qualifier name. That really doesn't mean anything as far as you ain't qualifying for anything. You're just going and shooting them. That's just what they call them. But we actually shot in one last weekend, which was in Joliet, Illinois. And all that is just it's just an organization that's ran by the state. Same deal. The scoring's the same. So you have a little bit of local competition because then, and there's a ton of different classes too. There's bow hunters and open classes and stuff. But then you can kind of compete in your own organization or your own like bow hunter class, and you don't have to travel out of state to do it. You just got to travel within your state to compete, basically in the same setup as a pro-am style shoot.
So the scoring on
Yep.
those, you show up at these things, and you say, the scoring. What are you talking about? Like, how's the scoring work?
So the scoring on an ASA, which are Delta McKenzie targets. So there is different types of targets. Chris probably witnessed Reinhardt targets at the shoot he was at, which is more just kind of looks like a bullseye, which would be like center 12s or center 11s, depending on how they want to do it. But a Delta McKenzie is actually a round circle. It's about the size. The 10 ring is about the size of a softball. It gives or take, gives or take on the animal size, but basically about the size of a softball. And within that softball size ring, there's actually 3 rings that are about the size of a quarter to a $50. and
Yeah.
they're not always they're not 6 to 12. Depending on the animal, they can be from like 5 to 11 in that kind of line. So there's a bottom with what's known as a bottom 12, and then a center 10, and then a top 12. And when you step up to the line and range the target, you actually, if you want to shoot that upper 12, you actually have to call it before you draw your bow. And then if you hit that upper 12, it counts as 12 points. But if you miss the upper when you call it and it hits the lower, it actually just still counts as 10 points. So, if you don't call the upper and you shoot that lower 12, it's 12 points. So you have a 12 ring, 10 ring, 8, 5. And then if you just hit foam on the animal, it's obviously just a 5. So, yeah, that's kind of how the scoring goes, ASA style.
Why would a guy call upper 12? What's the
Okay, so I struggled with this too, and Chris is probably going to, once I say this, it might come to realization. But when you're aiming at even a Reinhardt target, when you're aiming at that center and you're executing your shot, do you miss low? Well, if you do miss low all the time, and that was me, I always miss low. If I'm going to miss a 12, it's low. Well, if you're shooting at a lower 12 and you miss low, it's an 8 or it's a 5.
Okay.
So the safer call, just for me, is calling that upper. And if I miss low, I still hit a 10.
I
So
see what you're
so
saying.
that was the technicality of it. And in an ASA, you have to shoot with groups. So it has to be at least 3 people for scoring reasons. In pro-ams, you'll get with 6 people. So if you're the last shooter, they can really block them 12s. So you have to be, it's you try to play strategic, whether you go for an upper or you go for a lower. But the reason I usually call uppers 95% of the time is because if I miss low, and I want to stay in that 10 ring.
Gotcha. We're going to come back to that. So Christopher recently went to his first, what I would say, like sanctioned shoot
Yeah.
this past weekend. Chris, tell us a little bit about where you went and what you experienced in that shoot last weekend that you was there.
So yeah, me and my friend Pete, we attended Mountain Archery Fest in Campsville. And as for like a sanctioned shoot, I wouldn't really call it that. It was more like recreational. They had a competition, but it was for like more in-house, you know, attendance prizes, cash prizes. The top three placers for each shoot get invited out to another one where they compete for $7,500 and stuff like that. So as for like more of sanction, it wasn't really that. It was more recreational.
Gotcha. What did that all consist of as far as scoring and how did that lay out? Because if I'm not mistaken, was that the first one that they've hosted around here as a norm, or has that been going on up there in Campsville every year? We just found out about it.
Yeah, from what I understand, it was the first annual Mountain Archery Fest in Illinois, uh, at the Macaulay Heritage Project. But as for mountain archery in a whole, it's their sixth year of doing it.
And
They
go ahead.
The majority of them are out west, Utah, Montana, Colorado,
Okay.
Wyoming.
So what did your shoot consist of for the 2 days? What did you do?
So you basically just it's kind of like if I were to compare it to anything, it was kind of like golf. You pick a course that you want to shoot. They all ranged in, from more intermediate to more advanced. We picked the intermediate to start off, um, and then we did the mountain course, which kind of replicated, not really like scoring wise or anything like that, but like just like the terrain and the shot style. It was kind of more geared towards like western hunting, like the western course.
A lot of upper and lower shots more than
Yeah, a
just
little
like
bit
straight
more.
on.
Yeah, I mean we had a lot of the shots were straight on, but a little bit farther distances. The farthest shot we did was like 68 yards over a body of water. Um, Couple angled shots like up, down, like that kind of stuff.
Now, how does MAF score compared to the ASA that Tom's talking about?
Their 3D targets had their typical 5, 8, 10s, and 12 rings. Some of them had upper 12s, but a lot of them had like three on the bottom.
Okay. Did Tommy that what he's talking about? Have you heard of that? That
I
area?
have. Yeah. Yep.
Because I was interested. I was curious because I was curious if you'd ever shot that that series that he went to before or no.
No, I have not. I have not shot it. No.
Gotcha. So back to Tom with that ASA stuff. That's ASA, correct? I'm saying
Correct.
that
Yep.
right. So these shoots that you're going to, when you go to these shoots, you're going down and you're competing in, like you said, you said that there's different categories. You've got the bow hunter category, and then you said they go from what, like bow hunter to novice to, and then I'm assuming that there's a pure on professional category. Um, when you get into these different categories, so if I show up here as I'm going to go try one of these as a bow hunter, and the guy that's coming in to this same shoot that like yourself, who might be shooting in a more of a pro category, are we all shooting from at the same shit, or are we talking that it's a whole different style of shooting, or kind of explain how that all works, because I really don't know, and I'm interested in it.
Yeah, so your equipment really is going to drive your class. So you can say bow hunter, which is great, and you can have a bow hunter setup. But there's so many different bow hunter setups. Like you can shoot in a men's pins 30 class, and that's your max yardage is 30. So you're going to shoot at all
Gotcha.
different animals. You're going to shoot 20 targets per course. At a pro aim, you shoot 40 targets total. You shoot two courses of 20. But yeah, you can shoot a men pins 30, a men pins 45, 50. That's non-movable sights. Then you get into known classes. So I'm currently shooting the known 40 class. So mine's 40 is max. But I am shooting an open class. So I have long stabilizers, magnification in my scope, um, a full blown what they call an open setup, and then there's the known 40, there's the known 45, there's the known 50, and then after you get past the known 50, then you get into the pro classes for those different yardages. But there's barebow, there's recurve, um, there's so then there's judging classes. So if you ever see an open class, so like let's say an open 40, open 45, or open 50, that's judging classes. So there's no rangefinders. Same deal. You have an open setup, long bars, the whole 9 yards, magnification in your scope. But if you ever heard of like Levi Morgan and them guys that are famous bow hunters, they shoot open classes. So they're actually judging the distance and then setting their sight and shooting it. So there, like I said, there are so many classes for people. You don't have to be good. Um, and that was, I guess, the most terrifying thing for me is, man, you got to think you got to compete with these guys, and that's not it at all. Like they are just there to have fun, um, and you're shooting, and it's real weird because a lot of them rings you're shooting at, you're not really shooting at. Sometimes you're not shooting at a kill zone, which that messes with your head.
Really?
Um, yeah, you might be shooting high in the shoulder, and you're just naturally you get drugged down to that lower behind the shoulder shot like you would on a whitetail, but you're shooting high in the shoulder, so that's where your precision comes into it, and not necessarily just trying to kill something.
Where do you think them guys, that are, naturally, obviously, time in the field is where they're going to get, but I mean, how are these guys judging in these open classes, 72? Because let's be honest, you guys shoot a lot. You guys probably shoot more, the two of you probably shoot way more than I shoot my bow. And you know, 35 and in for me can be, even at 35 yards of judging. Okay, let me back up. So these bows these days typically, I know they're getting more and more advanced, but 0 to 30, you're pounding. You can almost set one pin and pound. about the same spot pretty religiously. But now when you get out past, when you're getting into these yardages that are 50, 60, 70, 80 yards that these guys are doing, every little bit of movement is moving so much, with these arrows. I mean, how do these guys, because if you're thinking at 65 yards and you shoot and it's 73, I mean, there's that much, that's going to, at that distance, there's going to be a lot of drop, enough drop that if you're in this I mean, how do they do this and get good at it like that?
Well, like Levi Morgan and them, they're shooting like their max distance is like 52 yards, but
Okay.
still they're hitting a quarter at 52 yards. And not are they hitting it once, they're hitting it very, and it's all different types of animals. So you got to think there's things that, like, for example, that you do on a daily basis that this comes so natural to you. If you looked at those targets every day and you shot them every day and you knew what your absolute was, like Levi Morgan talks about, like, for example, can you judge a whitetail at 20 yards? And you say, oh yeah, I know when a whitetail's at 20 yards every time. Well, that's your absolute. So when you're judging a target, you fall back to like, okay, I know that's 20, but he looks to be X amount distance farther. And so that's how them guys get into it. I've done it a little bit. I try to do it when we're out shooting ranges. And there's some times that I'm pretty accurate, and there's sometimes that I'm glad I use a rangefinder because my arrow wouldn't even come close to the target.
So, I mean, and then you take into consideration, wind factors. Is it a windy day? You're shooting on a windy
Yeah.
day. I mean, I guess all of that is go out and practice when it's windy. You're shooting in the wind, you're shooting in low light, shooting in bright light, because I think all shadows can play into that. I'm sure that there's so much that can play into this that, we could sit here and talk for hours on the secrets of all this,
Oh, 100%. And that's what's really hooked me. I mean, of course, I love deer hunting and all that, but I love literally the art of shooting. Shooting a bow, whether it be a recurve or a compound, is one of the hardest things to do mentally. And the reason I say that is because every time a bow goes off, it surprises your mind and it doesn't like it.
Yeah.
So it forces you. And I'll say this, and you guys will probably think, you know what? I've never even thought about that. But if you haven't shot a bow in a while, go shoot one. And you're going to see, man, I'm probably as good as Levi Morgan. I'm good, right? I mean, pounding them. Give it about a day, or let's give it a week. Shoot every day for a week. And you're going to say, well, wait a minute. I'm worse now than when I started. That's because your mind is trying to link when you're going to hit that trigger to that bow going off, because every time it does it, it's an explosion in your mind and it doesn't like it.
Really?
So that's why I fell in love with it, is because the science behind on how to shoot a bow accurately all the time.
Well, let's go into that. I mean, we're talking
Okay.
about shooting in the off season.
Yeah.
When you say that, what in God's name are you talking about?
So I'm going to quote some things from a guy, and if you've never heard of him, look it up, and the class is worth it. His name's Joel Turner, and he does Shot IQ. So we've all done this, right? We've all, bow season's coming up. Let's grab our bow. Let's go out and shoot. So we shoot for a couple weeks. We shoot for whatever. Bow season's coming. And in my opinion, bow season and shooting a bow is a lot building in confidence, because I was always shooting just right up until bow season. And this is before I got into target archery, but I think you guys will relate to this. Is, like I said, you started off super good. And then by the time bow season come, you're like, man, my groups went from like a baseball to like, now they're pretty spread out, but I'm pretty confident I'm going to go kill a deer. I mean, that's the reality of it. And the problem with all this is, and it's not like gun hunting, is like I said, your body doesn't like harm. So it is getting more efficient at trying to time when the bow goes off, right? So if you're ever holding on target, and Ferb can probably relate to this if he's shooting a lot, don't put your finger on the trigger. Don't put it on trigger. Your pin is as steady as it can be, and it'll stay right in the middle. put your finger on the trigger and the bow goes all over the place, right? Because your mind is linking your finger on the trigger to an explosion that's fixing to happen.
And is that just something
So
that our brains can't help to try to fight?
absolutely. And your brain is trying to make this as much subconscious as possible, right? It's and subconscious shooting is not accurate at all. You want to be conscious, but you want to be conscious in the right mind. So I'm not going to try to take too much fire from Joel Turner if you do take the class, but what he talks about, and there's a couple, I'm going to give you a couple good examples, right? Go get in your car and drive down the road, right? And I want you to focus only on staying between the lines. That's it. Just focus, and that's your main focus, right? So that's your pin. And we all know what that's going to be like, right? You're going to be all over the place. It's not going to be very consistent, right? Now let's change our conscious mind. Let's not focus on staying between the lines. Let's focus on driving 60 miles an hour. And you're going to see that it's super easy to drive at that point because that's how we drive all the time, right? That's the same thing as shooting a bow. So your conscious mind has to be in the mechanics of the bow going off, not the pin on the target. And a way to get our mind into this, as Joel Turner talks about, is conscious thinking. And one of his quotes is thoughts aren't thinking. And another way to describe this is have you ever walked up to a ledge? It don't matter how big a ledge it is. Maybe it's a high dive or something, and you're going to jump off in the water. Well, how do you, and this is a question for you guys, how do you get yourself to jump? Let's say it's a 30-foot ledge off in the water. How do you get yourself to jump off that ledge?
You answer it first, Chris.
I'd probably just typically analyze, what kind of danger factor would be
Yeah.
there. Am I jumping into rocks? Do I
Yeah.
know the depth of the water? There's a lot of
Yeah.
factors I could go into before I just plummet
Yeah.
off of a cliff. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so let's say we know all them factors are good, right? And you're standing there, got your feet hanging over the edge. Are you, without any thinking, jumping in that water? What gets you to jump in the water?
I got to tell myself, all right, let's do this. We're jumping.
Probably
Boom.
the thrill of it. I mean, if I know all the factors, if I know I'm not gonna die when I hit the water,
Yeah.
then just
Yeah.
the thrill of it.
Yeah. Actually, Jeremy nailed it. I'm going to tell myself, right? So you have a conscious thought, and that's what this Joel Turner talks about. So you have a conscious thought that gets you to jump into the water. If you've never done it before, there's nobody on this earth that's going to walk up to a ledge with zero thought in their head and jump off. Well, that's every time you release that bow, that's you jumping off in the water, right? Every single time. So how we get into that is conscious thinking. So I won't get into big shot process because, like I said, we could talk about it for hours, but I'll talk a little bit about my shot process. But when I draw the bow and the first thing you do is you got to put the pin in the middle, like we talked about. You have to do it step by step. Put the pin in the middle, access the trigger, and then consciously tell yourself, "Here I go," which is you jumping off the ledge, right? Now your mind goes to you moving the release to get it to fire. And you're talking yourself through that fire, and that's what fires the bow. And I've got a good buddy of mine, Dustin, that we're working him through it right now. And he'll tell me all the time, he goes, my pin wasn't even on the target, and it smoked it. He's shooting real tight groups, and he goes, man, the pin wasn't even on target when the bow went off. And that's because all of your subconscious is actually aiming for you. And another term that Joel Turner uses, how does he say it? Proprioception. And that is you looking at something and your mind naturally takes it to the middle. So without getting into a bunch, I don't want to bore you guys to death, but that's kind of the ins and outs of it. And one little thing I'll ask both of you to do is if you guys see like a picture on the wall, aim at it. Just look at it. I mean, you don't have to pick something up and aim at it, but if you just aim at it. Aim at it right now. Just look at something and aim at it. All right. Now you're aiming at. Now where are you looking at? If it's a picture, where'd you look at?
Wherever I want
To
to
aim
be.
at. Yeah. Where is that on the picture?
Like dead center.
Right in the middle.
Yeah.
Boom. You just said it. Why? I didn't tell you to aim in the center. I never once told you guys to look at a picture and aim in the center. Your mind wants everything perfectly symmetrical, right in the center. I never told you to aim in the center of the picture. I just told you to look at a picture and aim at it. That's what he's getting at. So when you put your pin on the target and you forget about it, and all you're doing is working that release, and your mind is subconsciously looking in the center, when the bow goes off, the pin jumps to center so fast you don't even know what happened.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, that's funny that you bring that up, and this because you bring that up, and what it brings me to is this, because I don't shoot like you're talking about shooting. I don't do this.
Yep.
But what I do is this, and I honestly think that this is something, and maybe this is the answer, because I never always could understand why. But I'm not saying this in a way like, oh, I'm some great hunter, because I'm not. But I will say this: when guys say, you know, oh my gosh, this deer came in and I got buck fever, I was so worked up, you know, and I was shaking like crazy, and I missed it. You know, it happens to everybody. I get it. You know, I mean, but you know, I don't know if it's time spent hunting, but I've made this system in my brain that once I acknowledge that that's something that I'm wanting to kill, okay, I look at him and I see him and I'm like, I'm going to shoot that deer. I run a process through my brain that and it's hard to explain because I don't know if I can explain it in words, but what happens is my process through my brain goes about what needs to be done, what not to do, and what to focus on doing to get it done. If that makes sense to you. So as this deer is coming in, I'm running a process in my brain so that when the time comes, I've not even I'm not no longer even thinking about how big his rack is. He's got kickers, he's got this, he's got that. I've been waiting on this deer for 2 years. Like those thoughts are gone for me. My thought process is kill. Like I've got this, I know that I have to kill it. And I will say this, the minute that I shoot, all that stuff that other people get, I get it. Like once I would shoot something, then I get those, my knees will start going and I'll get all worked up. But in that moment, I somehow have a way that I can channel that. I don't know. Does you relate to that? You guys, Tommy?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're leaps and bounds ahead of other people. I mean, you said exactly what I said, and that's the crazy thing about it is you can explain it. Most people can't. Most people are like, well, I don't know. He came in, and I can just shoot him. But they won't explain the fact that when they was coming in the whole time that they were consciously talking to themselves and talking themselves through it, to always keep their mind in the presence. Nobody ever talks about that. You know, that's like even professionals are like, I don't know. But yeah, it's perfect.
Well, it might be because when you talk about professionals, they do it so much that it's just like, you know, you're a carpenter, you know, taking a hammer and hitting a nail is second nature to you, or striking off concrete is second nature to the guy that works construct. I mean, it's just something that you know that you do. You've done it so much that I don't know how to explain it. I just do it, you know. But I think that when, like for me, I have to do that so that I don't become that guy, because I can easily be that guy that gets worked up. That's why I'm saying I'm not perfect, but in order to keep in that moment, I have to do that. Like I have to tell myself as he's coming in, if I say you're shooting that, I'm telling myself, okay, you've made a decision to kill it. This is what you're going to have to do to kill it. And as he's coming in, I'm telling myself, don't worry about the rack. The rack's done. You already know that you want the rack. So now let's work on what angle do you want him at? Like I play that whole thing out until it's like, all right, that's what you want. Shoot it. Bam. And then, hey, and I'm not saying that it always happens by no means. I mean, I've missed a bunch of them, you know, I'm just saying I do that process a lot whenever I'm shooting.
I mean, yeah, for myself, a shot process was never really anything that I ever focused on. I mean, I didn't kill my first deer with a bow till I was 21 years old. I took a pretty big hiatus from archery hunting whenever I was in college. I'd come home for shotgun season, yada yada yada, and then once I got done with that, I wanted to focus on that more. But still, even then, everything was very rushed. I rushed into every shot, punched a more deer than I should have. I hate to admit it, but I did. And like really, like this past year is whenever I kind of wanted to take it as serious as I could do it. Not just hunting, but archery in general. So one thing that I focused on this year was I seen I seen a lot of deer this year, but I didn't see that many that I wanted to shoot. But I treated every deer that walked past me like one I wanted to shoot. I analyzed each shot on that animal as it walked past me. It's standing here. It's 15 yards. This is the best shot that I have to take on this animal. Oh, now it's walked to 30. This is what I'd have to do. So I treated every deer that I seen this past season as one I wanted to shoot, and it helped me build a more mental process that I can go through in the future.
That's awesome, because I will say this for him, Tom. Um, he's had a bow in his hand since he's been old enough to shoot one, and like he said, he did take some time off when he was in college. But I've always, and when he said he was getting into this shooting, I knew this was going to be a good thing for him, because from day one, even being young, he's always been like a good shot. Like, there's some guys that can't hit the broadside of a barn. They've been hunting 30 years, and to hit a paper plate, it's just, they go out, they're going to kill them a deer, but it better be teed up at 15 yards, and it better be, dead broadside. And that's about all, and that's just the way it is. And there's some people that can naturally shoot, and some people that have to work at it, and may still never be that good of a shot. I mean, that's just reality. Let's just be honest. Some people are good at stuff than others. That's just the way it is. And I've always thought that he was a good shot. I mean, he was Robin Hood and arrows at a young age, and I'm 50 years old, and I think I've done that one time. I'm just never been that type of a shooter that is a precise shooter. Just, it's not me. I don't know if it's, maybe I haven't spent enough time doing it. I don't know. But I think it comes natural to people.
Oh, 100, yeah, 100%, yeah. Yeah, and it's so cool that, like I said, I mean, analyzing every deer that come by, like you're literally talking yourself through every deer. I mean, it just had to be the right one. I mean, it don't get any better than that. And a thing that Joel Turner talks about in the shot process, and we can put this in any kind of situation, whether it be a buck coming in or not, is he talks about being in a house, and the first door you walk through is you drawing the bow and aiming. And in that room is like a party, right? But we don't want to stay in there. We want to get out of there and get into the process of a release. Uh, and once this whole process is done and you shoot that arrow, well, guess where you end up at next? Back at the front door. You got to go back through the house again. It's a process that you never master, right? We always heard as kids is practice makes perfect. Well, a lot of people shooting archery is practicing their own failure, because they're literally getting their mind more uh, not focused, but more target panic every time they shoot, because their mind is trying to get it to where it doesn't cause that explosion. So like you guys said, I mean, the thought process and thinking through each shot, or even looking at a deer is perfect. That's what you got to do. And that's what's crazy is next year it could be completely different. Like,
Yeah.
you might not even get your pin on the target and you're freaking out, but you got to always resort back to that thinking, thinking through it.
So with that, with the topic at hand, with these shoots, the two, now Chris has done one, and I know, Chris, you and Pete have traveled around and went and shot at some of these other places that offer shooting, you know, just to kind of get your feet wet. And Tommy, with you traveling around and doing this, I mean, what do people like? What do people need to do, and what's to be expected of this? I mean, is is this something that, as far as these I don't even, do you call them competitions? Um, I mean, do people get into
Yeah.
this just simply for the practice? Do they get into this for prestige? Do they get into this for money? Do they get? I mean, do they? What is
I,
what is it? I mean, what
I,
is all of that offered or what?
Oh, 100%. I think it's just like any other hobby, right? You can go play golf or you can go be on the PGA Tour if you want to work hard enough to do it, right? Um, so that's what's so cool about the people that you'll meet at these shoots is you'll show up and maybe you just went to Farm and Home and bought your bow and arrows and they're, hey, this is what I got. What can I do? And they're going to tell you. They're going to say, hey, man, get in this class, shoot this class. You want to shoot with us? It is just a super, super cool people. And like the pro-ams, there's thousands of people and it's super overwhelming at first. And then you're going to realize, like, why haven't I been doing this forever? Because everybody's just so cool, so cool. And furthermore, for that matter, there's a shoot this weekend, Buckstop Archery, Brownstown, Illinois, or
Yeah,
Brownstown, out there by you guys.
yeah.
It's an ASA qualifier. Grab your stuff and go. You can shoot the club shoot, or you can pay $25 and become a member of the ASA and shoot that shoot. It don't matter. People are just, I said, people just love to see everybody on the range. It's a 2-day event. You can shoot Saturday or you can shoot Sunday.
Do you when you're doing this, is your goal is is your goal with this to help you with your hunting, or is this more of, do you separate the two? Do you say, okay, I'm an avid deer hunter and I love to hunt and that's my thing, but this time, I mean, are you using one for the other, or when you lock in and you're going to go shoot these shoots, is it a totally different, is this just because I want to get good at being a target shooter?
It's both. I mean, it's the process of shooting doesn't matter if you change equipment, right? I mean, the process doesn't change. The execution doesn't change. It doesn't matter what bow I have in my hand. The execution really needs to be the same. But some equipment's more precise than others, right? So my open setup is designed to shoot quarters at 50 yards or 40 yards, whatever you're shooting, as where your hunting setup is designed to shoot a deer behind the front shoulder. Um, so my idea with it is just I, I want to be precise. I want to say, I can shoot quarters um, every time at 40 yards. If I can shoot a quarter at 40 yards, I can definitely kill a deer. And for anybody that shot an open setup to a deer hunting setup, it's totally different because go put some binoculars up to your face and move around a little bit. That's what the magnification in these scopes look like. So any kind of movement that you have in your bow is magnified. When you got a glass. So that alone can be pretty tough. Compared to like a hunting setup.
Chris, what was your take on your first, MAF shoot like that? Like, what did you take from that as far as going up there doing that? That you're like, what was your take after saying, okay, this is what they do, this is how this works? What was your take after you left there?
Um, so I feel like, their standpoint isn't really, I mean, comparing like Mountain Archery Fest to, an ASA sanctioned shoot, it's like it's comparing two different things on two different spectrums. Like, yeah, they're both archery shoots, but like I said before, Mountain Archery Fest is pretty much strictly recreational. It's something to do with your buddies. Uh, but I mean, it was pretty humbling. Like, uh, it it required a lot more, mental toughness. Not only with like shooting, but it puts you in situations where I just hiked up a huge, ginormous hill. I'm huffing and puffing. Now I got to shoot at this target. Like small things like that you don't really see while you're sitting in a tree stand. When you're sitting in a tree stand, you're cool, calm, and collective. You got breeze blowing on your face. You're just waiting for an animal. This, I just hiked 8 miles. Now I got to shoot at a moose at 64 yards. Like it's stuff like that that I respected that a lot more than And me and Pete really like we took our own personal scores. Like we didn't write them down. Like we just I got a 12 on this one. Oh, I got a 10 on that one. Like we didn't score it like we were professionally doing it, but I mean, it just really shows like what you and your body and your mind can do when you're under pressure.
What do you think about that, Tommy?
I think it's awesome. Like I
I
said,
mean, do you have
I
those
think,
same feelings when you're doing like? Does your body do
oh,
like up and down hills, and then all of a sudden now I got to shoot, and like bring all
yeah.
that in?
Yeah, like 100%. Like I said, a lot of the club shoots are like that. A lot of your ASAs, especially pro ams, they're all like flat, and you're just shooting at targets. But yeah, like the stuff. I mean, he's putting himself in real world situations, right? Um, I mean, he's got to be more in his mind than really anybody else. I mean, you're hiking up hills, you're out of breath, your heart's beating. Uh, you don't get more lifelike than that, right? I mean, you can't mimic that.
No.
Like I said, I've tried to put myself in practice in situations like that, like doing jumping jacks, and you can never make yourself as nervous as you are when you're in competition, but you can raise your heart rate, and that's what he's doing. He raised his heart rate. He's out of breath, and now he's got to kill this animal. I mean, that's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. I like it.
I mean, I think that's why this is a good show, because I think that people think, well, hunting season's over. I really miss my bow, and I can't wait till next year, and that's why I wanted to do this one, is because of this, what we're talking about. There's so much neat, fun shit that if that's what you're into, and maybe you didn't realize that it's all around you, but you just, or maybe you don't have the time to go to all of them too, who knows? But if you are looking to do this neat shit, it's there, and look at the practice that you get from it. What was you going to say, Chris?
Another thing that they kind of offered. Me and Pete didn't do it, but once I get myself in some better shape, and I do one of these things in the future, which I plan on. But they had this thing that was like it was put on by a sponsor called um it was called shoot, I can't remember what the sponsor was called off the top of my head, but they did this little event where you went through a rigorous workout, and then so like here's an example. They'd carry an 80-pound dummy bag 20 yards down and back, and then immediately go shoot at a target. Or they would do, some type of run, go shoot a target. Like something, if you put those two things together, like working out strenuously and archery, those are two things that don't really ever clash at all. And it's just like something extremely challenging that most avid bow hunters won't ever even experience. So I thought that aspect was cool.
Well, and I
Yeah,
think that puts a lot of people on a level playing field, because you can be the best bow hunter, you could be the best shooter sitting flat, but take a guy like me now, take your fat ass up that hill, and now shoot. Where I've been doing this, and all right, now I'm a great shot, but now you've got me all sweated up, worked up, and down the hill, and I can't hit the broadside of a barn. So I think it puts people. I think the neat thing about it is it puts people on a different playing field that not normally would possibly be in that same field, and it gives other people an opportunity.
yeah. Well, yeah, I did remember it. It was called Hunt, Lift, Eat is what it was called.
You ever heard of that, Tom?
I have. Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's another one on Facebook. Maybe that's the one he's talking about. Yeah. It was like super intense. Like he
Yeah,
said, carrying bags and running with your bows on your back and up and down hills. And um, yeah, I've never done that.
yeah,
Let's so we kind of talked about that a lot, and I think that we've peaked if people are interested, we've we put some information out there to pique some interest, for people to kind of explore. You can get on Facebook, you can get on the internet, Google. You can find all of this if you're into those hunts and shoots. But let's talk a little bit about, I got you guys together on, like, for instance, Tommy, with this gear, like in different types of gear, arrows, like let's start with arrows, shooting, hunting arrows and shooting in these classes that you guys shoot. Same arrow work fine, or is that a whole different ball game?
Yes, same arrow works fine. Absolutely. And maybe you guys have heard. So I shoot real big arrows. Like I'm chasing points. If you're not chasing points, you're shooting long distance like these guys did last weekend. Little bitty hunting arrows is the way to go. But for me, I shoot big fat arrows. And like I said, I'm chasing a line. So different, different things. But yeah, any arrow works. Absolutely.
So when you say that, you're saying that you don't shoot these shoots with the same arrow that you would deer hunt with. It's a completely different arrow, because you said a fatter one, because you want more of a heavy flat shooter at a short distance than you do a skinnier one to get farther in a faster spot, right? Or no?
Well, no, a skinny one. A skinny one is by far the most accurate, right, for distance or anything like that. But a big fat one, if I'm trying to shoot a line or circle on a target, because all it is a circle. I'm trying to catch that line, and let me show you guys here. This is I'll grab an arrow I shoot for target, and I'll grab one I shoot for hunting, and you'll definitely see the difference here.
Did you realize there was this much into this, Ferg? Because I had no idea. But you've been researching this stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, there's
And that's the cool thing. Like I said, you can go as, and you can just it's so cool. Like I said, you can be really into it or just go out on the weekends and shoot. But yeah, so I'll try to hold these up. So this is, let me see here. Huh? Let me do it this way. This is a PS26. So probably hard to tell how big it is, but then look, this is a hunting arrow. So I'll try to hold that up. This is big, big. This is a little hunting arrow that I usually hunt with, which is a gold tip. But yeah, this is what's known as a PS26. So so the 26 is 26/64 in diameter. So
Gotcha.
so that's that's what I shoot at targets. Just chasing lines. So you got target arrows, you have hunting arrows. Your hunting arrows can easily be for anything. I would not hunt with that arrow, that target arrow, but your hunting arrows can definitely go for anything you want to use them for.
Let's talk a little bit about, when you were talking about, and I can't remember that guy's name. What was that guy's name you were talking about with the mind over? What was it?
Yeah, Joel Turner. Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about releases and different styles of releases, because I know Chris just went to a different style release this year. I've been hunting the same Scott release since, I don't know, I probably had the same damn thing for, I don't know, 10 years. I've been using the same release. I want to talk a little bit about releases, and I don't care about brands. You guys can bring up whatever brands, because there's no sponsorship. I don't care, who shoots what, but I'm interested in the different styles and the brands and what they do. So tell me a little bit about releases and what you find as far as that element of surprise, or that thing you're talking about with your brain and trying to trick the brain. And I know that releases have got to have something to do with this. So tell me a little bit about, between the two of you, because I know that Tommy, why don't you go first, and then Chris, tell me about what you went to.
Yeah, so I deer hunt with a thumb button, and actually I got some here. I thought you guys might ask about this, so I actually set some up a little bit. But yeah, this is a thumb button. Stan, it's the Perfex. I've actually shot a lot of targets with it too, but just activated with a thumb. I said I do enjoy that, and you can shoot this with a surprise, and that's stuff I can get into as well how you wrap your thumb on it and actually pull through the shot to make them go off. And then what I shoot mainly for targets is a hinge. And
Okay.
this is a great release if you want to watch your buddy shoot through the house or whatever. But yeah, it's act. So you draw your bow mainly with your index finger and on your thumb on the button, or your thumb on the peg here, and then activate this release. You'll actually hear it click. Now you guys probably won't hear it click with the headphones on, but it actually clicks, and that's when you know you're getting close to it going off. And then you actually just roll your hands with it, and then it fires. So that's what I shoot for target, and it's just a hinge style release. So either shoot a thumb button or a hinge style. Yep.
So do you think, okay, with them too, we're going to get to Ferb too, but with them style releases versus the style. So the one that I shoot, yeah, it's got the belt buckle on it, goes around your wrist. Do you think that
Yep.
guys do you think that a guy, and I know that everybody's got preference, don't get me wrong. Would a guy be better off trying to go to that style of a release as a hunter, what you're showing me
Nope.
there? Or is it more about
Nope.
comfortability?
It's all about what you're comfortable with. 100%. It's more on how you execute it than what it is. I think just like anything, we get caught up in all this equipment and technicals, and I tell you, I'm the tinkering person. I mess with my stuff more than I probably should. I'll take a good setup and make it even terrible just to get it back to being good again. But no, I don't think so. I think you just shoot whatever you like. I mean, but I tell you what, this is something that if you don't shoot a lot, going from like a thumb button that your mind is super comfortable with shooting, and your groups are the size of a pie plate, and then you put a hinge in your hands that you have to think about because your mind doesn't know how to make this go off, right? You have to think about rolling, right? It'd be amazing what your groups go to. However, your mind will master this. And that's where the thinking process has to come in. You don't ever want to master it.
What do you think, Chris?
Um, I think releases, arrows, bows. It all just kind of comes down to personal preference. What you as an archer like. So I had a typical index release. I don't even remember what brand it was, like or like Trophy Ridge or something like that. But I recently switched to a thumb button. This is a Ultra View. Uh, and I don't know. It was kind of like honestly, it was like an impulse decision that I made, but I don't regret it. Like this just small release personally has improved, I believe, the way I shoot. Um, Using something like this uh, takes away a little bit of the anticipation of the shot. Uh, you know, when you pull your bow back, you got an index release. You have to tell your brain to pull the trigger, like on a gun. Boom! You got to tell your brain to pull the trigger. With something like this, you can tune it to however light you want to push it, or however if you want more tension or less tension, then you can tune it to that way. But this with your draw cycle, what I kind of do to get that back tension is when I'm set up, I roll my lat backwards, and that backwards tension creates the release to fire. So instead of pushing your finger like that, you're just doing a smaller motion, or not a smaller motion, but a more fluid motion that makes it fire off.
Because that's what I've been contemplating changing releases from, for one, and it's not for nothing that you guys would even think. It's more for me of when it's freaking cold and I got gloves on, and then I got this release wrapped around the gloves, or I got a glove that's got a little insert for it to go through. I Anytime, I normally will not wear a glove on this hand. I don't care how cold it is, because I don't like that feel of of having to move my strap to a different size because I need it to fit differently because I got more clothes on. And then at draw, the natural feel of where I'm supposed to be doesn't feel right. And so I don't like it. So a lot of times I just won't even wear nothing on that hand. I just keep it in my pocket until until that time would come that I have to use it. But I've been thinking about going to something like that because I don't know. I sometimes feel like that's why I was asking you, Tom, do you think they'd be better? Because I sometimes feel like I never do chase the right anchor point all the time, depending on what glove is where, and I don't know. I'm thinking that is a better fit for people. But like you said, I think personal preference is everything, whatever you're comfortable with. But I don't know. I think I'm thinking about trying that style of a release.
Yeah.
It comes. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say absolutely. I mean, Jeremy, I got more than you can try, bud. You just say you're more than welcome to shoot whatever I got. But yeah, like I said, I do think you get more of a constant anchor. I'll agree with that with a thumb. You kind of got that little Y part right here,
Right.
that follows your cheekbone, right? And when you put that there, and then the string angle touches the tip of your nose, that's your anchor. And that's when you're coming into anchor, that needs to be the first thing every time. Boom, tip of the nose, and then you start your process from there. And I could see I haven't shot a index in a while. Like I said, they're just as good releases by any stretch. But yeah, I could see where that would be. You might well get your anchor off. Absolutely, especially
Well, that's
different
what I feel
clothing.
like. I definitely feel like I'm always chasing the anchor point, and whenever you want to start, like you got me trying to think, talk mentally because I don't have time to worry about that. I don't want to have to worry about that anchor point all the time, and I do with that style release because I know that in the yard I'll even play with, okay, if how far off if I don't have my anchor point just right. Like I will shoot with the wrong anchor point just to see how far off I am. Okay. If I don't land perfectly every time, if I'm out a little bit, because I want to see in a hunting situation, if I don't have time to land, like I feel like if I'm rushing something in a hurry, how far am I going to be off if I rush it? Well, I'm going to be off a lot. I can tell. So that's something that I've been thinking about is definitely changing my release to see, how more, and I need to do it in this time of year so I can get comfortable with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, get as much time as you can behind it. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt to try.
Yeah.
Like I said, the most constant anchor for sure is something that's going to make you the most accurate.
Two more things I want. Go ahead, Chris. Go
A
ahead.
little bit of a learning curve, you know, coming from the index to this. You could watch a million YouTube videos on how to anchor with a button release or something like that, but you don't really obtain that until you get out and shoot it. And at first, like I was like, oh, I hate this thing. Like I'm shooting consistently left, and then once I figured it out, uh, my groups just got tighter and tighter with time. Muscle memory. That's really what it is muscle memory, doing the same thing over and over and over again.
I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about two more things before we end this. First one being broadheads. I'm torn in this broadhead world. Different for different reasons. I want to hear your guys' take on this. So I've shot expandables, since they've came out. Okay, I first started off on a Muzzy 3 blade, back in the day before there was expandables, and then expandables came out. And I'm going to be honest, I went to the expandable for the reason of and there may be people out there that'll get mad at me. Companies might get mad at me, but I feel like sometimes expandables are the lazy man's arrow or broadhead. And the reason why I say it, and I shoot them to this day, so you can call me lazy, that's fine. But I feel like they're for the more novice, let's say, or the guy who doesn't want to spend the time. I think your accuracy per se might be easier to gain with an expandable broadhead versus a fixed blade. However, saying that, I'm very intrigued with for instance, I really started to notice it more with the guys that do the YouTube channel, the Hunting the Public guys, and those guys run around and I noticed that they shoot these all steel bladed, almost look like old Indian style arrows. And what intrigued me with those was some of the angled shots that those guys have themselves in, because some of the ways they hunt off the ground and they don't get all that perfect shots and timing and the penetration that they were getting, through a shoulder blade. Which I'm not saying that guys should go out there and buy those because they can shoot a deer at any angle because they think that it's going to just let them kill them at any angle. However, on an off miss shot with a broadhead like that, it seemed like they were tearing up some penetration versus what I've seen expandables have the opportunity to do if the hit's not as good as what it should be. So what is your take? What's your take on, I'm going to ask both of you because I know Christopher and I talk about this all the time, and I know he's done a ton of research on it too. But what do you think, Tommy? What do you think about this broadhead world?
Well, I'll step back too. I was a huge fixed guy, and not necessarily anymore. I've actually shot expandables for the last 4 or 5 years now, and I'll tell you why. The reason I went to expandables, and you pretty well described it, is because when archery season happens, it's chaotic, right? I mean, we're working, we're trying to shoot as much as we can, right? We're hunting, we're dragging ourselves through the timber. The bow's taking a beating. So I was always big into having the most tuned setup to shoot the fixed broadhead and all that. And I got away from all that, and I just wanted an arrow that I knew was going to hit at 50 yards, right? And you're not going to get that with a fixed blade. And some people might argue with this too. I get it. But I want to be able to take my bow and drag it behind my truck and then throw an arrow in it and kill a deer at 50 yards. And you're going to do that with an expandable, in my opinion, because your bow doesn't have to be, and the setup doesn't have to be perfect for an expandable to fly good. And that's why I kind of went to it. And same thing, you can have a marginal shot. You have a better chance of killing a deer with a marginal shot with an expandable. You got a lot bigger wound channel. And then I never would have thought I'd have said, you know what, I'm going to rely on something to open up to kill this deer. But the expandable I shoot, I said I really like it. I like it.
What do you think, Chris? Because you researched a lot of those fixed blade all steels, and what's your thought?
So the way I kind of look at it, and from what I understand is, your expandable broadhead is generally going to fly out of the box closer to a field point than a fixed blade. With a fixed blade, you have tunability. You have to you tune your bow to that fixed blade. In most cases, with an expandable, you pull it out of the box, throw it on an arrow, and it'll fly almost as true as a field point. There's probably some you probably might have to tune a little bit, but I mean, I shoot Grim Reapers, but I've also shot these Annihilators, and I've killed deer with both of them. I shot a deer with this thing, and it blew through the deer so fast that I don't even know the deer knew it was dead. It got hit. It looked up, looked around, took 2 steps, and died. So generally anything's gonna kill the animal. It just kind of, like, once again, personal preference, what you want to do. If you want to take the time to tune something like this, go for it. But if you want something quick, easy, that's just as lethal, get an expandable. I have no issue with either of them.
Yeah, I just wonder. I don't know. There's so much. That's why I love this. I love the world of hunting because there's so many different options, and I think that's why I love to hate it sometimes too, because there's so many options, and then you get chased down these rabbit holes and of what do I, you know, I'm going big game hunting, and do I need some big spike driving thing to get through this massive animal, or will my whitetail gear be just fine elk hunting or moose hunting? You know, and I know there's research out there. It's just there's so many different scenarios, and there's different studies done that, man, you can get lost in translation in this stuff, you know, and it's hard to sometimes decipher between bullshit and what's right and real. And I think, you know, you just gotta use what you feel comfortable with and be confident in what you got that's gonna kill the animal, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanna, you know, experiment, that's the fun part about it. You know, you don't, you know, there you got some guys that swear by one broadhead. They've only shot that one broadhead for, you know, their entire existence. But you know, until you get out there and see what else there is,
Yeah.
you'll never know.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with everything you said. And I take a lot of time to build my arrows and spin them to the shaft and, make sure everything's straight. And that's fine. But how many times you drug that bow up the tree? And somebody's going to say, well, if it hits the rest or hits the sight, it's not going to hit in the same spot. Correct. 100% correct. But if you ever get into the world of like torque tuning a bow and heard about stuff like that and bear shaft tuning, you'll see that if you can get something that's going to mimic a field point, um, that's what you want to shoot. Because if I said your bow gets beat up, you're torqued, you're in awkward situations. And the last time I ever shot a fixed blade, Jeremy, was when I went after that one I called you about that I shot high center mass. And
Yes.
that arrow flew. It was a two blade. Then that arrow it wind planed and flew terrible. And I've never looked back since. I've never shot a fixed blade since, and I've had a lot of success since then. But and as I said, that's the reason I went to it, just for the tunability of them.
Sure. The last thing, and I said this when I started my podcast. Every time I bring people on, I want to ask this question and have a conversation about it, because I love everybody's take on this, whether they like it, dislike. I just like to hear different people's angle. Trail camera world is becoming I mean, they've been around a long time, and as technology grows, trail cameras get smarter, technology gets better, and it's getting so good that there's actually states out west that are making guys take them out at a certain part of the year and not be able to use them, because it's instant now. It used to be, you know, you'd put your cameras out and however much time you spent to go grab a card, or goddamn, if you think back to the old days where you had to go get them and pull the 35 millimeter roll out of it and take it in. And the exciting thing was see what was on there. We're now at the minute that animal steps in front of it, you know, within seconds, your phone's blinging, or your camera, or your computer emails going off, and here we have an instant picture of an animal standing in front of an area that you've been looking at, trying to find them or whatever. And I also, that's one part I want to talk about of them. And the other part I want to talk about is whether we think that these cameras are affecting these bucks in a way of not so much the human scent coming in to check the camera. I realize that. I'm wanting to hear your take on if they know that that's a camera, and they know that they obviously don't know that you're sitting at home watching it. Let's be real. But what I mean, do they avoid them because it's not right, that it's not supposed to be there, or do they not give a shit about them? But so first, let's talk about, are you good with, we'll start with Christopher first on this one. Are you good and completely good with cameras being able to, because I'm telling you where we're headed. we're headed to the trail camera that's going to be able to 360 rotate around, where you can look all the way around everything that's out there, zoom it in, zoom it out, swing it left, swing it right, scan the whole damn field before you even get there to go up there. That, I'm telling you, we are headed in that direction. It's coming if they're not already there, and I just don't know about it. So what are your thoughts on trail cameras first, Ferb?
I mean, here's my point. Like anything that makes hunting not hunting anymore, I don't like that idea. And I mean, I necessarily don't think that your cell cameras do that. You know, because yeah, you get instant feedback of what's in front of your cameras, but that doesn't take the aspect of hunting away. I kind of have an interesting view on it because right now I hunt at 3 different properties and all 3 of them are different. When I hunt with my buddy CJ, we have no cameras. There's no cameras out there, so you get that element of surprise when you never know what you're gonna see when you're sitting out there. I mean, when I hunt with my friend Ben, we have some cell cameras out there, so we know what's milling around out there all the time. And recently, I started hunting out at my good buddy Pete's property. And him and his dad are old school. They don't have no. They have you got to go out there and pull the cards, and I like that too. Uh, with that, you go out there, you pull the cards, you got to wait till you get home to see what's on them. That adds the element of surprise as well. Uh, and I feel like the majority of those cameras have been out there for so long on that piece of property that, there's probably deer that have grown up seeing those things and they don't think anything of it. So, I mean, once again, back to the topic of personal preference. If you feel that cameras take away from hunting too much, then that's your own personal opinion. I honestly think that they're a good tool. Um, but coming from 3 different places, one where I don't use them, 2 where I have cell, and 1 where you got to pull the cards, I like the idea.
Tommy, what is your thoughts?
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. No, we didn't. Tell us we didn't lose Tommy. Tell me we didn't lose Tommy in the major part of this conversation.
Tommy, come back to us.
Tommy, please come back to us. Don't leave us hanging. You cannot leave us hanging like this, Tom. That is unbelievable for you to leave us hanging like this.
Oh, he's gone.
We lost Tom. We lost him at the end. Holy crap. But yeah, Chris, I'll tell you, I kind of feel like this. Here's my thought on this. So I think the cameras are a good thing. I think that inventory of your animals on your property, depending on the type of hunter you are, like if you're somebody who's chasing a certain deer, I like all kinds of hunters. I like guys that are meat hunters. I don't mind that one bit. I can appreciate the guys that go out and say that their whole season is going to be devoted to, double hook horn that they've been chasing for 4 years since they've seen him, and they've let him get that big, and they're using pictures and all of this for intel to get him. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I do think that there does come a point where I don't necessarily think that it's fair. And like where I'm getting at is I don't think that drones and things like that are fair. I don't think that we should be going to lift up, go fly over something and say, hey, I was going to go to my stand, but I can't now because he's out there sitting in the field now. And if I go up there, I'm bumping him out. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair to the animal. I do think that we do get a slight advantage by having them, but I don't think that it's enough to because you still got to kill him. You still have to make sure he doesn't wind you. You still have to get in, get out of there without being seen. So I still think that we're at the disadvantage because we're in his backyard. We're going into his home, whether we've got them there or not. Now, when we talk about, when I ask everybody on this as far as do they affect the deer. Now, my take on this is, I think to an extent it does. I think to an extent it's be no different than this, and this is how I take it. If you was to walk in your house and somebody had placed a new television on the wall or on a different wall that you walk through the room every day, and now all of a sudden there's a television on the other wall that you never put it there. Nobody in your family put it there. Why in the hell is there a TV on that wall? We've never had a TV there. What is going on here? So I do think that they do see things like that and wonder, wait a minute, why is that there? I don't like that. Now, do I think that it affects all deer? No, probably not. Someone probably look at it and say, hey, I wonder what that is over there, because we got trail camera pictures of deer coming up, licking them, smelling them, and we'll keep coming by them. Do I think that it can affect a big mature buck? Absolutely. I think that if there is any that it affects, it's him. So I think that they do affect him some. Enough to not be able to kill him? I don't know yet. I don't think so. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, with that being said, you kind of have to view it like this. Um, Deer. I feel like deer are animals that are constantly analyzing their environment because, in their mind, everything's out to get them. That's just they're a prey item. That's how prey items think. Um, I mean, when it comes to like a camera, it might have to be with it might have to come down to like when you put it out there. If you're constantly out there messing with that thing, spreading your sin around, making your presence known in their house, that might cause some, you know, habitual changes out of the deer. But if you like, and that's a cool thing about cell cameras, you throw it out there, it sits out there all year. You don't really have to change the batteries
Yeah,
in it. You just let it roll,
for
you
sure.
know. I mean, and with time, just like everything, they'll get used to it. Uh, that's my opinion on it. I mean, as long as you're not, as long as you're not in their space more than you should be, I feel like you'll be okay
Yeah.
using cameras.
Well, this has been fun. We did lose Tom. Tom is a good friend of mine. We worked together for quite a few years, and moved on to different directions. But Tom is a great deer hunter, very smart deer hunter. We got a lot more to talk about with Tom as the season comes in. He's packed full of knowledge. I'm excited to get another episode in with him. We're going to probably have to get him a different computer, or maybe get his hamsters out there, some more food out there in the middle of nowhere to get his internet, keep his internet going while he's there. Uh, but this has been fun, Chris, and with this show and stuff, and we're gonna do more shows as the season goes on. But I appreciate you coming on tonight and
Yeah,
doing this
it was
with me.
fun. It was fun. I
This
want
is
to
our
make I want to
first
make
one.
a I want to make some shout outs though, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, first I want to shout out, Mountain Archery Fest.
Sure.
I talked with the guy that orchestrates it. His name's Brandon Waddell.
Nice.
Real cool guy, real cool guy. It was their 6th year of doing it, first time in Illinois, and I took the opportunity to do something that I haven't really done before, and I gained a lot from it. Anybody that's wanting to get together, shoot some 3D with your buddies, go out there and challenge yourself. That's the perfect way to do it. I am a little bit more interested in the ASA side of it. I might have to get with Tom, figure something out about that because one thing that I feel like 3D shooting 3D does is you get the most out of your investment. I just bought a new bow this year, And if I wasn't doing like this, it'd just be sitting there collecting dust. So if you get out and shoot, you stay consistent, you hone your craft, and you have fun with it, and you just get the most out of your investment.
I got you. Hey, listen, Tommy's back. Let's bring him in. Let's let him finish. Let's see if we can get him to finish.
All right.
He's back.
He's back.
God,
oh my gosh.
Well, we were finishing up with the
trail
cameras. So we kind of we had our take on it. I'm kind of curious to your take on it now, Tommy. You there? Yeah, I'm just kind of curious to your take on it. Yeah. We were just kind of wrapping that up, and that's what we were saying was with this episode, this is what we kind of went over, and I was excited because we got some more talking to do once the deer season gets closer. And I'm hoping that we'll get you back on, and Chris will get back on. We're going to end up getting everybody on. But I appreciate you guys coming on, and we're going to do this one again.
Sounds good.
All right, boys. Thanks a lot. We'll see you on the next one.
Yep.
Take care, fellas.
Peace.
Message wasn't delivered to TOM-GIS-WOLD-14.
Here, I see it. I wonder how I upload this. Share? Well, I only seen. I got it right here. It says, there's an hour and 12 minutes. And it says it's still recording. Yeah. It says uploading 89%. I have one with a red dot. No, there's not another one there. Correct. Yeah, how is this?
It says that it's got.
Yeah, it says there's an hour and 13 minutes. Yeah, it's still going right now. Like I can, like Ferb's on his phone. Like I can see, but I can't see you. It says recording. That's what it says. Yeah.